Good morning, Zulema. My name is Anthony Villanueva. I'm interviewing you, Zulema Roman, for the Latino Oral History Project, Voces, of the Pandemic Project at the Center for Latino and Latino American Studies at Northern Illinois University. This project is in partnership with Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas in Austin. Please know, Ms. Roman, that this interview will be placed in the Northern Illinois University libraries and shared with Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas in Austin. If there's anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, we will honor your wishes. If there is something that you do want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Once you listen to the questions, if you agree, please answer yes. Do you give the Center for Latino and Latino American Studies consent to archive your interview and your materials at the Northern Illinois University libraries? Say it again, I can't hear you.
Yes.
Do you grant Northern Illinois University the right, title, and interest to copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes.
Do you agree to allow Northern Illinois University libraries to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes.
Do you grant the Center for Latino and Latino American Studies consent to share your interview and your material with Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for the inclusion in the Voces of Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes.
We may have a question in the pre-interview form that we have already filled out. We use that for information. We use that for a pre-interview form to help in research. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at Benson?
Yes.
On occasion, the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies and Voces receive requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We will only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone number or your email with journalists?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So Zulema, tell me a little about yourself. What would you like to share with us?
Well, I am a mother of three, and I'm 67. I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey. Later on, went to live in Puerto Rico a couple of years. Returned to New Jersey. I finished my high school there. I then went to work for the Postal Service and enrolled in college. I made it up to a year and a half in college. I married. I got married. And that's when I had 3 children. And so I was a stay-at-home, 3 children.
Okay, and how did you learn about COVID-19? How did that information come about?
I reside in Texas and I have 3 grandchildren, and I heard through the children's school. They sent information to the homes.
And what was your first concern about the information that they sent home?
Because I'm a high risk, I was scared that I would get it for the children.
Why are you considered high risk?
Because of my health conditions.
Okay. Okay. Yes, what you mean is that your age and your other health issues you may have.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And how did that make you feel when you found out how devastating COVID could be?
It made me very cautious, isolated, and just worried for myself and the children, my grandchildren.
Now, you mentioned grandchildren. Who do you live with?
I live with my daughter in Texas, and with my
Tell me a little bit about that family dynamic. Your daughter and some children and her husband.
correct. I could tell you that my son-in-law also he works for the Navy, and he teaches large classrooms, and my concern was that he would get exposed to it and bring it home.
So he travels to the base every day?
Yes, he does.
And from your knowledge, did the Navy provide any extra precautions for its military personnel?
In the beginning, they did not.
They did not.
In the beginning, they did not. And he was enclosed in a classroom with over 50 students.
Were there any masks used?
In the beginning, they were not.
And what about your grandchildren? What are their ages?
3 boys, one is 10, one is 7, and the other one is 5.
And how did that affect their school dynamic? How did that affect their education?
Well, my daughter and my son-in-law discussed in the beginning, when the pandemic started, the school said it would take like a month before they went back, then 2 months, then 3 months, and then they gave the option to do visual learning or just homeschool. My daughter chose homeschooling, and they are still homeschooled.
How long has your daughter been homeschooling your grandchildren?
Almost a year now.
Almost a year. And how does that work out? Does she set up a schedule?
She sets up a schedule for the 3 boys. She also includes them having like science and taking them to the park. She really makes it like a classroom atmosphere for the 3 boys.
So what you mean is that she has like a family outing, a school outing, a project, a science project. Good. Oh, that's very good. Very nice. And how does your daughter feel about this COVID pandemic that's been playing out?
She's very paranoid. Paranoid from the very beginning because of her health.
What are her health issues?
She had a pulmonary embolism, and that was in the beginning before they announced about the pandemic. So in all,
Yeah.
that my son-in-law would bring it home.
Okay. And how did the pandemic affect regular family functions like shopping or eating? How did they handle that? How do you guys handle that?
Well, we're a family that goes to church. We attended one time, my daughter and myself, wearing masks, but then we noticed that there were many people not wearing masks. So we opted to do this, viewing the service online on Zoom. And that's what we have been doing. One big thing that really saddens me is that my 3 grandchildren at school, they have friends. Here at home, it's the 3 of them. And we have to actually look out the window to make sure there's no other kids in the neighborhood so they could go out and play.
So they can't mix with other friends.
And children can't understand how to maintain a distance.
Um, so you mentioned people that were not wearing masks. Did you notice that when you went food shopping?
I No, when I went shopping, they had it on, but what I noticed was they were not keeping that distance.
Social distancing. How did when they closed, did your family frequent restaurants or gathering places? Did
Uh,
that stop?
Totally stopped. We had a custom of going out every Sunday after church. That stopped.
And how has the COVID pandemic affected the family balance? Has have things become a little bit more serious in the family in terms of the family dynamic?
Syrians in the lines of always thinking that we would not catch it in any way or form. The other thing I was going to mention, we have opted to do curbside pickup of the groceries. And a big thing for myself was I couldn't go into the doctor's office for some appointments. So I've had to an appointment that would have been every 6 months,
Right.
wait a year.
Okay. And how do you handle your doctor's appointments now?
Well, now I have a visiting doctor that comes once a month.
And what information have you gotten about the vaccine? Have you inquired about the vaccine?
I have a group of ladies that I do a Bible study with on Zoom, and they're my age or much older than myself, and my information I'm getting from them.
Yeah, but have you gotten the vaccine?
Have not gotten the vaccine yet.
Have you enrolled for it? Have you applied for it?
No, I haven't. I will.
Did anybody else in your family get the vaccine?
Yes, my son-in-law had the 2 shots.
And where do you live close by other people, or is it more of a rural area?
It's a rural area.
Do you still have mail delivery with no problem?
We don't have it directly to the house. We have it in a certain spot where all the mail gets delivered.
Are those boxes, or is it a general place where everybody just comes and gets their mail?
Boxes within the development.
Oh, okay. Okay. And what about other family members? Do you have any other family members that contracted COVID?
Yes, I have a cousin that lives in Florida and her son who contracted COVID. In fact, she's been out of work for 2 months.
And is that somebody that I could contact?
Yes, you can.
And how has she been managing the COVID pandemic?
It has been extremely difficult for her, being that it's just her and her son in the home. She's the only working person at this time. And again, she has a lot of underlying conditions, but she works in the healthcare. And she got it from work. That's the only.
What does she do in healthcare?
She's a nurse practitioner.
And her son, he contracted it also?
Mother, yes.
Mother. And how did they both manage this virus? Were they incapacitated? Were they hospitalized?
My cousin chose to stay home. She was afraid to go to the hospital and get worse.
All right. And her son?
Her son stayed at home also. It didn't affect him as bad as my cousin.
Okay. Now, how old is your cousin?
She is 68.
And her son?
He's 35. I might be off for a year or two.
All right. And is there anybody else in your family circle that has been affected by COVID?
Well, in my family, if you include my son-in-law, his father had it.
Oh, his father. How did he contract it? Do you know?
I'm not positive, but he was working and going to church. And then I believe his daughter got it also.
So your husband's cousin?
Yes. No, my husband's sister.
Oh, sister. And did they both survive? I didn't hear you.
Yes, they both survived.
Both survived. Is there anybody in your family that has passed away or lost a family member?
It's a distant cousin in Florida. Oh, wait, no, he lives in Texas. A cousin that lives in Texas.
Okay. And who's that?
That is my mother. That's on my mother's side. I think we weren't that close.
Oh, okay. So, but how did you learn about their COVID experience?
My cousin, the other cousin, called me from Florida to let me know.
Oh, did that cousin pass away?
The cousin did pass away.
How old was he or she?
I am not sure about the age because we weren't very close.
Okay. And that person lived in Texas, the one that passed away? I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. And what about the cousin that lives in Florida? Did she have COVID?
Yes, she did. But I want to put in there that she did not know she had it. She went and got a test and found out afterwards.
Okay. So she was not affected she wasn't dramatically affected? Or she just thought she had a sore throat or something?
Thought it was a regular flu.
So right now, when you go out in public, are you fearful to go out in public?
Extremely fearful.
Do you find yourself being more shutting yourself in more?
Yes, especially it causes depression. My depression got worse. I myself had a physical therapist coming to the home and a nurse come to check me, and they noticed that I was less talkative, and so they had to increase my medication. And they shared with me that anyone who has depression during this time has been very affected.
And do you think that this is going to be the new normal going forward, or do you think that things will improve going forward?
My desire is that it get improved, but my hopes, I'm not that hopeful. The fear is always going to be there.
So what, in your opinion, where was the breakdown? What happened that after a year, it's gotten to the loss of over 400,000 people? Was there a breakdown in the government? or in getting the word out, or both?
Well, first of all, the government knew it and didn't announce it. And then the other thing is there are people who wear masks and people who are against wearing masks. And then have you noticed during the holidays, like right now, I'm worried about spring break. We had a football. Not. It seems like every time there's a people that are gathered together, there's that surge, and it comes and goes. That's when the cases increase. People are not following what the government is telling us to do about gatherings, even family gatherings, birthdays.
So now that the administration in Washington has changed, do you consider yourself more hopeful that the situation will improve?
No, I'm not. I don't. I don't think it's going to improve that much.
No.
No.
Do you know anybody in your neighborhood or in the area where you live that has gotten
Yes.
the vaccine? The vaccine?
No, I don't know anyone that has gotten the vaccine. But what I can tell you is in my neighborhood, there's nurses. My neighbor across the street had got the COVID also. Neighbors, parents, both parents have died.
Neighbors?
Yes, their parents that live with them.
Right.
Hear about there is not a week that goes by that I do not hear of someone dying from COVID.
Just in your neighborhood?
Just in my neighborhood. Just in my neighborhood and their extended families. It's like death is everywhere. And the sad part is that when they pass away, or people like my cousin, when she got it, she didn't want to go to the hospital, and she's in the medical field because she thought that she would get worse there. And if you go there, you won't have any visitors. When you pass away in the hospital, you see them on the phone saying goodbye. So it's not only so sad that they get infected, they get sick, but then when they die, the family that's left behind, it's very sad. They want to hold their loved one's hand.
Right.
The person who they need their family. There's that closeness, and to the extent of funerals, there's no viewing, and a lot of them have chosen cremation instead of the burial.
That's sad, I said. So let me see if I can think of, is there something else that you wish to share?
I want to share that I lost a very dear friend to it. And I think about him every day because being that I live with my daughter, it's been 2 years I'm in Texas. I left friends behind in New Jersey. Here in Texas, my only way of socializing was through church. And so I don't have what you call many friends here. My one friend was Don. We would speak 3 times a week. And I miss him terribly.
He died of COVID?
Yes. He's the only one that I would talk to when I had problems, when being with the COVID, depressed. Yes, that was like my closest loss that I've had through this. And it actually made me angry. yes, the good thing is that whenever we went to hang up, we always said, I love you. But I could tell he was sick. And yes, he had underlying, he was a dialysis patient and everything. But I remember his voice and how he was coughing, and I encouraged him to go to the doctor. And next thing I know, I got the phone call. Like 3 days later, I got the phone call that he passed on from COVID. And the sad, his wife was my best friend. And when she passed away, he took over from where she left off.
Oh, did she, was she affected by COVID also?
No, she's been gone quite a few years now. It was a sudden death. And yes, I miss him. Miss him a lot. Because he made me, we cried together, we laughed together. We always talked about food.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, Zulema?
I want to talk about my coworker from the post office, Bishop Gerald Beals. I got news that he passed away, and his son, COVID, and he had just lost his son to COVID.
So we're talking about 7 or 8 people in your circle that have lost their lives to this pandemic in the last year.
Yes. Yes. And I'm sure that I can't recall every single one, but I have lost quite a few. I was terrified when my cousin Margie told me that she had it, and I'm here and she's in Florida. And this is just me. I just can't imagine how many other, I'm sure that if you went, knocked on each door here, each person either directly had a loss or knows of a loss.
Is your neighborhood Hispanic, or is it mixed?
It's mixed. It's mixed. There's Mexican, American. It's very mixed. And we've kind of sought out a way to maintain contact through Zoom, forming a group of women, and trying to find ways that we still stay connected. And we're all anxious for when this is over, we could see each other.
All right, okay. Well, if there's nothing else that you wish to add, Zulema, I'm going to end the interview right now. I want you to know that this is a process. We're going to go over the transcripts, and eventually it'll be posted on YouTube, so that you and your family in the years to come can see this.
Great.
So
I wanted to add something about
sure.
the children. How do you explain this to the children?
I don't know.
And the only thing I could tell because they get paranoid and they suffer also. All I tell them is, remember this because you will read about it in the history books.
Well, that's one of the reasons that this project is ongoing, is because these interviews will be available for generations to come, so that your grandkids later on, they'll be able to access them and see their grandmother and what she went through.
That's encouraging.
Okay, so without any further ado, I'm going to say thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice day.
You also.